Well, Dave, as we can see, there's a lot of water out here and a lot of grass, but yet our cattle still aren't getting everything they need. So today, let's talk about supplements.
You bet. Yeah, mineral supplementation is something we need to be considering year-round. But this, just because the grass is green and the conditions are good, doesn't mean that the cattle are getting everything they need in the forage.
Right. So what exactly would they be lacking in as far as what they're not getting out of this forage?
Okay, well, from a broad perspective, this kind of forage, very high quality, lush forage, is as good as it gets in terms of providing minerals relative to the cattle's requirements. And so as the forage matures, as we get later in the summer, as it begins to cure in the fall and winter, the nutrient concentration will go down. So this time of year, most of the minerals that we're concerned about are at their highest. A few of them might not meet the animal's requirement, but they're as close as they're going to get all year.
Okay.
Specifically, the mineral that is lacking the most in any cattle diet that's based on forages is going to be sodium.
Okay.
Sodium chloride, salt.
Very important.
Very important. That's why cattle like salt so well and have a craving for it, is because sodium is extremely low in forage, and so we provide that to meet that sodium requirement. Of course, sodium is important for a lot of bodily functions, particularly the central nervous system.
Right.
Very important. In native grass type forages, phosphorus is going to be deficient most of the time, and then in the other forages like Bermuda grass, fescue, and the other cool season grasses, probably copper and zinc. So those are probably the three primaries. Sometimes selenium is marginal to deficient in fescue. Recognize that there's variation from farm to farm, and those are just kind of general principles.
General principles. What about the difference between, say, and I think you have here some powder versus like a pelletized? Is there a preference on that?
Well, most all minerals are going to come in this, what we'd call maybe a meal form. But what you see there is, you can see the salt granules and the dicalcium phosphate granules. You can also see just a little bit of molasses blended in this particular mineral. Okay. And that's going to be used to monitor and change intake. We have been monitoring the intake on our cows here at the North Range for about 6 years now. And we're shooting for around 2.5 ounces of mineral intake per day. Okay. And that's about what the cows average. We use a mineral that we make right here at the OSU feed mill. We call it a 28-12-8. 28 is salt, 12 is calcium, 8 phosphorus.
Okay.
So that's a mineral that's formulated to kind of match the requirements for summer native and Bermuda grass pasture.
Do you worry about them getting too much?
No, the cows do a pretty good job. If you have, say, somewhere between 15 and 30% salt, the cows do a pretty good job of monitoring intake based on the salt level.
Okay, so they're not going to overeat it if it's that salty. And just one final thought, what kind of return are we going to see on doing something like this, as far as, just the quality of our cattle?
Well, boy, that's a good question. It's an extremely difficult one to answer. It's an extremely difficult one to research because extreme deficiencies in any mineral can cause big production problems, but it takes an extreme deficiency for those production problems to manifest themselves and be obvious.
Right.
Okay, so what happens more frequently is marginal deficiencies, and they're really hard to see, like slightly reduced weaning weights.
Right.
Or slightly rough hair coats, for example, with a copper deficiency.
Okay.
Is noticed sometimes. So it's hard to say, but what I like to tell people, Clinton, is that if people are satisfied and think they're getting good weaning weights, if their reproductive efficiency is good, say they're getting 90, 92, 93% pregnancy rates every year, I'd say, wow, that's pretty good. And I'm pretty sure you don't have a real extreme mineral deficiency problem to be worried about.
Okay, well, good information. Hopefully these cattle will keep on the mineral and enjoy this summer grass.
They're sure slicked off. I don't think there's a copper deficiency here.
That's for sure.